What's up, everybody? It's Jeremiah.
And Dave as well.
And this is the first episode of Casual Shenanigans Tech. If you guys don't know, this is our offshoot podcast of Casual Shenanigans Gaming, where we will be going more in depth on the tech questions you guys mail into Casual Shenanigans Gaming. We love answering them on the show, but we get so many now, it's kind of hard to get to them all in the middle of a regular episode without dragging everything down for like 30 minutes. So we
basically,
figured,
Joel can't stop us here.
Exactly. So we can go more in depth and talk more about our line of thought and stuff on these questions if we do it here as a separate podcast. And you'll also be able to hear us answer one question, each episode of Casual Shenanigans Gaming, and then we'll do the rest here. It'll probably be every 2 weeks or so, depending on how many questions we get. But tonight we have 5 questions, and we're just going to hop right to it. So first one is from Owen, and he says, "Hi, I'm a big fan of the podcast, and I'm contemplating upgrading my PC. I bought pre-built because I'm new to the PC gaming scene, so I bought a pre-built HP Envy 700-060EA because they couldn't just...
No one's perfect.
It has a G...
I feel like, sorry, I keep interrupting you here, but I'm just looking at the name here, and I feel like the 060EA is just like the end of the SKU just slapped onto the branding.
That's what most of these are. There's no one sitting there in the branding office going, you know what would make this name better? An extra 7. Ooh, look at that. Doesn't that look good on a bumper sticker? No one cares.
Can we get some dashes in there, please? More dashes?
Come on, PC manufacturers. It's not that hard. Look what Apple does. Call it the HP Envy, and then put a number on the end that maybe signifies the graphics card. That's all gamers really care about. Well, this one has a GTX 760 graphics card, an i7-4770, a 460-watt power supply. He likes to live dangerously. Oh my gosh. 16 gigs of DDR3 RAM, and an MSI 7826 Khalili motherboard. No idea what that is. No SSD. Here's a link to the full specs. He gives us a link.
That's a weird combo. That's a nice CPU and plenty of RAM, and what sounds like a nice motherboard, but then that power supply.
Well, he says he wants to upgrade it to play The Witcher 3 at high on 60 FPS.
Ooh, oh my.
And future games like Fallout 4 at high settings. Thanks for any advice, Owen. So his budget is 300 euros. Can you possibly, let's see if we can bring up PC Part Picker and switch that to euros. I think that's possible.
Right off the bat, I'm going to say for The Witcher, we're going to be saying that's high 60 FPS with no Hairworks. Hairworks turns it into Crisis. So
yeah, and high 60 FPS for The Witcher. What resolution are you going to be playing at, Owen? I don't know that. I don't know what your resolution is. Let's assume
all these
1080p.
Assume 1080p. I was going to say the same thing, yeah.
So 1080p, no SSD, 300 euros. He has a GTX 760. That's a good graphics card. We know from our Potato Masher comparison that should be good in The Witcher 3 for 30 FPS on high at 1080p. So he needs to roughly double that. And I can't see anywhere on PC Part Picker where I can switch to euros. Do you see that?
I don't, and I'm actually looking up his motherboard, and it does not support SLI, which I was just thinking of briefly. I know that power supply can't, but...
No, yeah. I was going to say, there's no way that power supply is... let's assume that power supply, it can drive a GTX 760, okay?
Okay.
So it should be able to drive pretty much everything else we come up with, because the 700 series wasn't the most power efficient. And we're driving a GTX 760 and an i5 750 on our 430-watt power supply. I bet our power supply is higher quality, but still. So... let's see. Here's the problem is we don't know exactly how much euros, how many euros stuff costs where you are. But if we assume 300 euros, let's say $350, do you think that's reasonable?
I'm just going to Google it real quick because I feel like...
well, there's the exchange rate, but then you have to figure things might be sold for different prices.
Yeah, so right now the dollar has the advantage by 10%. Yeah, 10%. But you're right, there are price differences. So let's assume a hit for buying in euros by 15%. What do you think?
Wow, really?
Stuff's expensive, hardware-wise, with euros.
I'm trying to see.
What all the Potato Masher comments say is the worst thing ever. So.
That's true. So the first thing I would probably have said out of the gate would be a 970, a GTX 970.
That's always a safe option.
Because he has an i7 4770. That's like, what, a 3.6 or so gigahertz.
That's a nice CPU, yeah.
Yeah, it's hyper-threaded. Like, it's up to 3.4 gigahertz. It's 3.4 gigahertz, 3.9 gigahertz turbo, but that's going to be a turbo. Most of these processors, if they have a stock turbo frequency, that's not every core. That's 1 to 2 cores will turbo up to that for select tasks.
Correct.
And that's the 4770, not the case. So he's not overclocking that. Thankfully, it's pretty powerful. 16 gigs of memory. He's great. It's really just graphics card, and we have to be at least as power efficient out of fear. So, Owen, if you can get a 970, I'd get a 970. If you're okay going with AMD, you can almost guaranteedly get an R9 290. Although, look at that
How about
case.
those rebadges? The new ones just came out. Let's talk about those briefly too.
It would be the R9 380 would be the comparable one. It's a good card. It's
Is it in the price range, do you think?
Well, here's the thing. Not knowing the price range, I have no idea. But an R9 380 does sell for $220.
I would bet it is.
And then the R9 390 is $354. That's where I'm kind of like, that's too much money.
Yeah.
But yeah, a 380, you can get them with 4 gigs of memory. I'm looking at an MSI one that's going for $240. That's not too bad. I might still get a 290. Let me see what's faster, a 290 or a 380. Because I think that the 390 might be just a rebadge 290.
It's a lot of numbers flying, guys.
It is.
Joel will be like passed out on the floor right now.
That's what you're looking forward to on this, is we're going to talk through the whole process. As you can see, it's not like we know what we're doing all the time either. So the 380 is a 280, essentially.
Okay.
It's a little bit better of a 280. The 390 is a better 290. I'd get a 290.
I agree. Yeah, for AMD.
Let's see, what are those going for? Yeah, if you have to stick with NVIDIA, hopefully you can get a 970. If you can't get a 970, like, you could get... I mean, there's nothing else to suggest that's close to it. Like, a used 780 is slower. A used 780 Ti is probably going to be more expensive and about the same speed.
I agree. Yep.
So there's nothing to do there. Yeah, if you want NVIDIA, you better hope you can get it at a 970. If you can't, I'm looking. There are plenty. There's a Sapphire Tri-X R9 290 for $263, so that's probably the sweet spot for you. Sapphire is one of the best AMD board makers there is, and that Tri-X fan design overclocks like a beast. They're pretty cool, pretty quiet for R9 290s at least, and your power supply would be able to run it if you have enough PCI Express connectors. You have a GTX 760. Most of them have 2 power pin connectors, 2 PCI Express connectors.
Right.
We don't know. I'm looking at on this picture of the HP Envy 700 on their website. They're using a GTX 660 to display it, and it looks like it's small enough to have 1 power pin. So looking at it, I have no idea. If you only have 1 power pin, you're going to have to get a 970, one of the 1 power pin versions. I think there are a few.
Yes, there are.
Otherwise, a 960, but then I don't know if you're going to be able to do The Witcher 3. You're not going to be able to do The Witcher 3
Yeah, definitely
at 60 FPS. The Witcher 3 at 60 FPS is going to be a little bit of a stretch anyway. That game's not great at 60. I was able to run 60 FPS, everything on high, at 1440p with 970 SLI pretty easily. But that makes me skeptical I could hit it with one 970 at 1080p, you know?
Yeah. I think that with a single 970, with some settings tweaking, you can get there, but I don't think it's going to be like hit the high button and you're done. It's going to require a little bit of tweaking.
Yeah. Oh, and I would just, stuff like Fallout 4 will probably run a little bit easier than The Witcher 3. So this isn't like, you're not going to be able to run anything on the highest settings. Most games you probably can. The Witcher 3 is just really demanding, and I wouldn't count on it. But I would say an R9 290 or GTX 970 are going to be your best bets for the money. Measure your case first, because that is not a full regular ATX case.
Yeah, for
I
sure.
can pretty much guarantee you by looking at it that that's not full. But as always, email back if you want to clarify your resolution, anything else that might matter, and we will happily revisit your question again in the future if we need to. All right, next one is Alex.
On a side note,
yes.
Good job with the question. I like all the details. That's helpful. Like
yes, the details. He even wrote in like how to pronounce his name, which is very helpful because he's from a country where his name is spelled very weird.
Also, we're Americans, so
yeah,
anything outside of Bob and Jim Bob is a little bit difficult.
All right,
What's up
next guy's Alex. Hello, CSG, you crazy casual slapping seals and stuff. First off, I'm a huge fan of the show. I've been watching since episode 1 and have been watching your content since before then, too. Keep up the good work. Thanks, Alex.
Nice.
To get to the point, I'm planning to upgrade my PC's motherboard by buying a motherboard bundle. Includes motherboard, RAM, and a new CPU. Here's the link to the bundle. Do you have the link to the bundle?
I have the link to the bundle.
All right. The bundle is a AMD FX 4100 quad-core at 3.6 gigahertz, an Asus M5 A78 motherboard, and 8 gigs of DDR3, and that's for £170. I was wondering if this would be a suitable upgrade for my PC to be able to play new games as well as old ones on medium to high settings. Here are his current parts. He has an Asus motherboard, an AMD Athlon dual-core 2.4 gigahertz CPU, a 650 Ti, and 6 gigs of DDR2 RAM.
I can tell when he built that computer, probably 2009, 2010.
I was going to say 2007. Athlon dual-core.
Oh, I was looking at the RAM and the graphics card, but I bet those were upgraded
that RAM.
later.
Yeah, that RAM definitely looks like it's...
It's DDR2, I just realized that. Never mind.
6 gigs of DDR2. You're a brave man.
Oh, my.
If there's any other suggestions you can make, I'd greatly appreciate it. Once again, I love your podcast. You guys are awesome. Stay casual. Alex, the Sanchezinator.
All right, that's a thing.
All right, Alex, I'll be very honest with you. A 650 Ti is not a super awesome graphics card.
Yeah.
Depending on what you want to play. So you say you want to be able to play new games on medium to high settings. What new games? Is Counter-Strike Go a new game? Or is The Witcher 3 a new game? For any games where you're thinking like how new and how well will I be able to play it, I'm going to use The Witcher 3 and like Grand Theft Auto 5 as
Jeremiah,
good benchmarks.
come on. He's obviously talking about the new Batman. Let's go ahead and get a NASA computer set
Call
up.
CERN.
Get a custom driver support team ready.
So the FX 4100, it's a quad-core, 3.6 gigahertz, but it's an AMD quad-core and what from their budget line. So you should treat this as an i3, as like a multi-threaded dual-core. Its architecture is different. It is a real quad-core, but the way AMD counts cores is different from Intel. So as far as performance, think of this as pretty comparable to a budget i3. The nice thing is these are quite a bit cheaper than budget i3s. 8 gigs of memory, good. Motherboard, perfectly fine. Processor, it's fine. I don't know if that's really like, it's going to be definitely a lot better than what you have.
For sure, yeah.
And you'll probably be able to play, it will help you play current games that you can't play now. But you're going to have to keep your graphics pretty low, not because of this upgrade you're trying to make now, but because a 650 Ti just is not very fast.
Yep.
And there's no way around it. If you get this FX 4100, I would suggest overclocking it. That motherboard, it can probably get it up to 4 gigahertz. And that's really going to help you. You need the extra speed on that processor. It's definitely going to be better than your Athlon you're running now. No questions asked. Much, much better, much faster. So you don't have to overclock it immediately, but I'd recommend that at some point if you're comfortable doing that. But that 650 Ti, if it's a 2 gigabyte model, I mean, he could probably crank everything down to low and be fine.
Yeah.
But wouldn't your assumption be, Dave, that he's probably not playing any current games right now?
Nothing super recent, I think, yeah.
I mean, because a Core 2 Duo won't play most games that have come out recently without severe issues.
My Core 2 Duo and my laptop struggles with Empire Total War on like medium-low settings, so...
Yeah, Alex, and that's a hard thing. So let's see, he has an Asus M2N SLI motherboard. Here's the cool thing about AMD that I'm always talking about. AMD actually does support their sockets. Is there a newer motherboard or newer processor we could get for this socket? That looks like it's an AM2 Plus. Okay, so let's see. What's the fastest AM2 Plus CPU? Because if he could keep his motherboard, 6 gigs of DDR2 RAM isn't terrible.
Oh, yeah.
And if you could get another 2 gigs of DDR2 RAM somewhere, you're up to 8, you're perfectly fine. And then we could upgrade your graphics card, which is where I think you should be spending that money. All right, Google AM2 Plus processors. I'm trying to find some stuff out now.
Oh, man.
Oh, you don't know anything about these, do you?
Yeah, AM2.
Oh, no. All right, sweet. We're in business. An AMD Phenom X4 940 Black Edition Deneb quad-core 3 GHz socket AM2 Plus. I have done a few builds with an X4 940.
Okay.
The 940, the 955, blah, blah, blah. They're probably about as fast as this FX 4100. It's a quad-core. It runs stock at 3 GHz. It'll like turbo to 3.6 or whatever. I know for a fact those things can get up to 4. I've had a few of them at 4 without any issues. So Alex, we're going to go off track a little bit. Just so you know, our opinion on what you sent us is, that's okay. It'll certainly be a much faster CPU, but you're still going to be handicapped by the games. So Dave, can you try to find out how many watts that the Athlon dual-core 2.4 gigahertz CPUs were? Just look for an AM2 Plus Athlon dual-core, see what wattage it is. Because this Phenom's 125 watt, and that's going to be the big thing is we got to make sure the motherboard can do it.
Let's see if this page right here has it. It does not, of course. Socket AM2 design specification, possibly?
Maybe.
I'm going to search in it for watt. Okay, I'm now on support.amd.com. That page no longer exists.
Here is, okay, it looks like the X4 Denebs, that's the one I'm looking at. These are all AM2 Plus processors used. You're looking at a very consistent $60. Plus a little bit of shipping, so up to like $70 shipped for an X4 940, 945, 950, 960, 965. Like it just goes up from there. I'd get the fastest one you possibly could. I don't know what they're going to sell for in England, but if you could get one shipped to you, you're looking for a Phenom It's a Phenom 2, X4, and then the 9 series. So any of them that are AM2 Plus, that motherboard should run it fine because that is an AM2 Plus motherboard. And it runs dual channel DDR2 memory. You have 4 slots available. I'm assuming you have 3 populated right now with 2 gig sticks. So you need to get yourself another 2 gigs, however much that is, or just keep 6 gigs for now. Honestly, 6 gigs is probably fine for this build. I would get you an X4, providing Dave can find out if the wattage is going to be okay.
It says 85 to 95 is what I'm seeing for watts.
So that processor, what do you think? Because the X4 940 is 125 watts.
Yeah, to be honest, I'm in uncharted territory here. It's been a long time since my last AMD CPU build, but I think that's pushing it too
wattage
much.
though. Yeah, like what?
Oh yeah, it's
interesting. Let me do a little more googling. Like, is there any way to get around this? Because there was the X3s, the triple cores, which you could actually do a BIOS update and unlock the 4th core because it really was a 4th core.
right.
Oh wait, here's where AMD is really good. You can get an AM3 processor into most AM2 Plus boards with a BIOS update. This is why AMD is cool.
Now that's one thing that they do get right.
But since we don't know about the BIOS upgrade, look into it. Otherwise, the X4, I'll tell you to look for the 955. That was one of the most popular. The Phenom 2 X4 955 Black Edition, 3.2 gigahertz. It's 125 watts. Makes me kind of nervous. They all appear to be 120. No, wait. Hold on. How many watts did you say we could work with?
I was seeing 85 to 95.
Okay, the Phenom 2 X4 945 Deneb. It's another AM2 Plus. It's a 95 watt quad core.
Ooh,
3
nice,
gigahertz.
very nice.
It is not a black edition, which means it does not overclock as easily.
Right.
But it's 3 gigahertz. It will be better than what you currently have. Basically, Alex, we're trying to come up with any way to get you a faster graphics card than the sack of junk you're running right now. And I'm not trying to be mean, but that's a sack of junk. A 650 for modern games. For modern games, it's a sack of junk. What do those things even go for used? Well, people are selling them for like, yeah, there's the 1 gig and the 2 gig model. Ew. I'm going to tell you a graphics card to look for. The 7850 graphics card by AMD. The AMD 7850. This is all used, by the way. Like, if you want to buy new, I don't know what to recommend. A 750 Ti would be faster and would work within your budget most likely. Or you could get a GTX, maybe a 960 on sale, but your processor's going to die. So I'm thinking you should use... you were going to spend 170 pounds on this combo deal.
Yeah.
So spend 70 pounds on a new processor and better cooling if you can, and then spend 100 pounds on a graphics card. So if you have $100 for a graphics card and you can buy new, maybe like what AMD or what NVIDIA stuff might fit in that price range?
For cards, graphics cards?
Yeah, on the used market. What's a easy to get card he could probably find really easily, no sweat?
I've actually seen new 270s going for really low, so I bet a 270 used would be even lower.
Wait, a GTX? Or
I was thinking
AMD? Oh,
AMD.
Sorry, an R9 270.
Yeah.
Really? How much you seen those go for?
I've seen them new for like 190, I think.
They're not old enough to really go that used, though. No, they should be cheaper than that. The 270 is 170 brand new.
Oh, is it? All right, hold on. Let me actually
Are you
look
thinking
on Slick Deals
290?
here.
Are you thinking 290?
I might have been thinking the 280, actually. Like R9 270. What was the last sale price that I saw? I've been keeping a loose eye on these
A good sale price for that would be like probably 150-ish.
What 130?
130, okay.
New.
That's still, I think we need to shoot for $100, I think is his sweet spot. The thing is, when you start getting around $100, it becomes a better idea to buy a used graphics card once they've already taken a lot of the depreciation hit. Or if you can get lucky with a really good rebadge on sale or something. But I'm going to guess, I'm going to make the AMD recommendation. You come up with an NVIDIA recommendation. Used is fine. I'm going to say either an R7 260. So an AMD R7 260, 2 gigabyte model, or a used Radeon 7850.
Oh yeah, same card that you just got for John, right?
He got a 7950. Quite a bit better. You can normally get them used for around $100. But that, like, I don't know what you can do in England. So if you can get a 7950, they're awesome. Otherwise, a 7850 or a 7870 will be pretty close for what you want to do. Medium high settings is probably still a ways off because you're still going to have a slow processor no matter what you do.
I promise you guys, I'm not going to just toe the party line the entire time, but I'm actually going to agree here just because this budget is so tight.
Yeah, if you got a tight budget, AMD, like it's that easy. Can you think of any GTX card?
I mean, unless you want to start digging into the eBay stuff, and like you said just now, for the UK, it could be different. And I guarantee you it's going to be different prices for the used stuff. AMD's your safe bet. I think I'm going to stick to your recommendation here.
Okay, I would say for NVIDIA, if you could like Craigslist, do they have Craigslist over there? If you
yes.
could,
yes, they do.
Okay, if you could Craigslist a GTX 660, those can be had for under $100. I do the processor upgrade first because it's more important, but like a 660 is quite a bit better than a 650 Ti. So that would be my recommendation if you want NVIDIA. If you want AMD, I would go with a 7850, 7870, all the way up to a 7950 if you can. Like if your budget will allow it. But start with the processor, and if you need help with that, email us back. But your motherboard should be able to support a newer, faster processor, maybe with a BIOS upgrade. But start looking at AM2 Plus processors like the Phenom 2 X4, 940, 945, 950, 955, one of those. That's my recommendation.
That was a hardcore question. Very specific.
It was,
question.
and so you guys need to be prepared. Everyone listening to this, that's the type of depth we're going to be going into on the names of stuff. Like if you submit a question, be prepared to take notes when you listen to this.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I'm not going to take notes probably, and it's a lot of different things to write down. I'll try to recap at the end of each question so you can remember.
I feel like, Jeremiah, it's safe to say that here on the CSG Tech podcast, we don't believe in bundles. We want to get in there and split things open and get really way too in depth. Well, you get these customized answers, though. It is very exclusive.
You do. I mean, bundles are good. Like if you're doing a new build, I would say, yeah, that's actually a pretty good deal.
Yeah.
If you aren't doing a new build, though, my first thought is what can we keep and what can we upgrade, and let's only upgrade what you absolutely have to preserve as much performance, because you're going to have a little bit of a slow build even after you do the upgrade compared to like a modern high-end gaming rig. It's still going to be kind of slow. So you want to preserve as many of the parts that aren't at the absolute end of the road, for as long as possible. All right, next question. First of all, my name is Quantum, and Dave might know me as a person that did an interview with him for my YouTube channel, which I really enjoyed to do. Do you remember doing that?
I did. He says he's not a very big figure there. I disagree. That was actually an investment in my channel. I'm hedging my bets, man. When you explode, I want to be right there.
He said, I also want to say I like your channel, Jeremiah, and the podcast that you all do. Thanks, man. It gives me hours of enjoyment when I fly in lonely space of Elite Dangerous or just have some time to spare. I hear a lot of lonely space things about Elite Dangerous. I'm not in chat.
You load up that space iPod full of podcasts.
I may not be in chat since I'm in Poland, so watching it live is kind of hard, but I watch it back on YouTube. He's definitely bumping that aux cord in the spaceship. Anyway, to the point. I'm having a big dilemma right now when it comes to hardware. I know a lot about PC parts, so I'm not a beginner. Good, we're going to get more in depth.
More numbers.
But I'm still having some other points. Having some other points of view is always nice to make good decisions. He is currently rocking a 4670K running at 4.5 gigahertz. Good overclock.
Nice overclock, yeah.
He is running two Radeon 7970 gigahertz editions. I have not read this question. I am predicting right now he is unhappy with Crossfire and wants to change. His motherboard is an Asus Z87 Pro, 16 gigs of RAM, 1080p 144 hertz display from BenQ. It's a popular competition esports monitor, he says.
Right.
All right. So AMD has been very annoying recently with their driver updates. Really? There haven't been any.
The lack of them, maybe?
Basically,
no Crossfire support is what he's saying here.
Yeah, that's what I was predicting. He can't use Crossfire in most of the new games. He loses half of the performance. For example, he finished Witcher 3 before they even released a beta driver for it, including Crossfire support. Well, that's because you played The Witcher 3 really quickly, okay?
Well, he's Polish. It's actually a national requirement to finish The Witcher in 2 weeks or less. There was a national holiday, and they gave out more consonants.
He says Elite Dangerous was released 3 or 4 months ago. Still no Crossfire support, although it runs at 80 to 150 FPS, and he has a monitor that can actually take advantage of that.
Nice.
It's sad that this is not supported, because I've heard people with multi-monitor setups not being able to have proper frames because there's no multi-GPU support from AMD. And I can give you multiple examples of that, but you don't want to read my mail for the whole podcast, so let's get to the point. And I'll agree with you, Quantum. I had 7950 Crossfire, and there was no point to have it most of the time. Like what you hear about, you should just get the fastest single card you could. That's why I didn't keep my 7950 Crossfire. One 7950, amazing. Two 7950s, amazing in like 10% of the stuff I play. Anyway, to get to the point, I'm not a fanboy of any company. I've had hardware from Intel, AMD, and NVIDIA, both in case of GPUs and CPUs. He just wants to be clear about that. I want to make the switch back to NVIDIA, but I'm not sure which GPU to buy. I need to have a GPU that will be able to drive enough FPS to my 144 Hz monitor in games like BF4. I might upgrade my setup to SLI later. GTX 970 seems nice, but I don't know if it'll be able to drive enough FPS to my display. 980 is a little more expensive, but might be a better choice. There's the thing with 3.5 gigabytes of memory on the 970. I've heard that someone has the 970 in your crew. So what is the report on that issue?
Someone.
Is it a big issue or not? Well, so we can stop right there for a second. I have 970 SLI. Dave has 970 SLI. Dave.
Joel had it briefly. I also had a single 970.
Do you have any memory issues at 1440p that can be directly tied to the video memory and not to some crappy SLI support or something?
No, the only wonkiness I've had was in Shadow of Mordor, but
that has no official SLI support.
Exactly. So,
and I have two 970s and running at 4K. I'm using more VRAM than you will, unless you're running like custom Skyrim stuff. And on GTA, I held the RAM usage at like 3.8 gigs for 20 minutes solid, and not a single hitch. Of course, then SLI drivers screwed up later on GTA, and now it hitches on its own. But it is not hitching because of the memory. I've had no memory stuttering. The only stuttering I've had are on games that don't have SLI support. So if you had a 60 hertz display, the choice would be obvious, a 970. Yep. Mm-hmm. But he has 144 hertz, so the decision's a little more complicated. Do you think that a 980 might be too much for 1080p 144 hertz, or is it okay? I want to hear your voices on that. I said, I think if AMD Fury, even if it's very good, he doesn't think for now he can regain his trust to AMD, so AMD is not an option at this point in time, at least for me. Thanks in advance for reading my question. Look forward to the answer, Quantum of Infinity.
Yeah, I was going to say the 980 actually, I think for a lot of modern games isn't even enough hardware-wise to push an actual 144 hertz. But I've always been of the opinion that the 980 is just not worth the money.
Yep. As a 980 owner, you're of the opinion you should not get a 980.
Yeah, I had a 980 for like 2.5 months because I got a free return on my 970 and had put aside some video card money and figured, hey, I'll try it. But it never just felt exciting. It was just, oh, that's a lot of money sitting there that could have been spent elsewhere.
Now, Quantum, I'm not going to belabor the point, but I've had a lot of different hardware from a lot of different companies, and my 7950 Crossfire was definitely a low point for graphics cards, but a single AMD card will be much better. I'm not saying you need to get one, but like an R9 290 would be a really good budget solution because it can be overclocked to be about as fast as a 970 at 1080p. So that's a thought, but you have 144 hertz. I'm assuming if you're considering a 980 or a Fury X, if it was not AMD, your budget is pretty decent, and the rest of your build certainly looks pretty decent. I would say a 980 Ti.
Now we're talking.
Because you can overclock that like 15%. They overclock really well. You can get a 980 Ti to within spitting distance of a 970 SLI, and that's a single card solution. So if you say, yes, I can spend $650, I can't think of a better way to get a lot of graphics.
Yeah, see, that's a card that you can throw money at and actually feel good about it. I feel like the 980, you can throw money at it and feel kind of good about it.
They've dropped the price and it's better, but I feel like the price needs to hit like $400 and it's a pretty decent upgrade from like a 970. But, I think for $650, a 980 Ti is still expensive, but it's cheaper than a 970 SLI. It has more VRAM and it's going to be about as fast, because even if a 970 SLI is faster in some games, that's dependent on the SLI support being there. And honestly, I'm not that thrilled by SLI support either. I know it's a lot faster than AMD, but I've rolled my drivers back a couple times recently because they keep releasing these game-ready drivers that might be ready for the one game they're talking about, but they keep breaking other stuff. Like GTA 5 has ran progressively worse the more drivers that have come out. And The Witcher 3 was having some issues too, and I've had to back off on both.
I do want to make a point that actually I think their SLI support is great. The card efficiency is so much better than it used to be. I mean, you got 96% on
definitely
both.
Improved, yeah.
And you've got SLI support for basically, I think, every major release. But like you said, it's not so much the SLI support that's the issue. It's just the drivers themselves being pushed out the door every 2 weeks. Like within a month, you've got games that are only a few months old that are starting to have some issues. So SLI is well supported, but just wonky enough that if you can afford the TI, single card is, I mean, it's always the best way to go, for sure.
If it was me, I would get the 980 Ti, keep it, wait till it hits $400, where the 780 Ti is about at $400 now. So give it 2 years and then buy the next gen one, and you'll lose like $200 every couple years, and you will stay on top of things. Now, you asked if it was overkill. It's not overkill for 1080p. 144 hertz is really going to depend on the game, though. That's so many FPS. Like,
yeah.
Battlefield 4, a 980 Ti, I'm sure can do that.
Oh, yeah.
You know, Counter-Strike, Elite Dangerous, yeah, all that's fine. Like,
you'll have all the frames in Counter-Strike.
like The Witcher 3, I don't think they make a graphics card that could run The Witcher 3 at 144 FPS. Same with GTA. I could be wrong, but like as far as I know, there's just no way to do that.
Yeah, those games are just using too many new pieces of tech all crammed together. It'll be a year or two before we see that easily.
Yeah. So, I mean, any last thoughts for him? Like, if you can't spend 980 Ti money, I mean, you can sell those 7970s for probably like $120 a piece. That gets you $240. That'll get you R9 290, or that will get you not a whole lot on the NVIDIA side of things. Like, you're going to be very disappointed if you get a 960. You could try to pick up a 780, but that's not going to be very good either, you know?
No, I don't think that's worth it.
I would just save my money. I get the feeling that you're the type of guy who'd be okay saving for like a couple, you know, a month or two extra. If you've had your current cards this long, if you keep them a little bit longer, save up, get a 980 Ti. I mean, it's the best single card solution right now until when the voltage gets unlocked on the Fury X, unless it like turns into some crazy thing. We can assume the 980 Ti is the best single solution. So, get that.
On a side note, as a bonus for our tech podcast listeners, Jeremiah, what year is this? Is this 2015?
This is 2015.
I was just confused because Joel keeps messaging me like every night asking to play Battlefield 4. I'm really confused right now.
Why does he want to play Battlefield 4? I'm not asking that for like a, hey, let the podcast know. I honestly do not understand why he wants to play Battlefield 4.
Yeah, it's finished now in 2015. That's
it's
not the whole answer.
You told me there were still issues.
It's SLI issues for me. I mean, Battlefield 4 has always hated SLI. I had the 680s, and I got that weird stutter. That's gone, and now it's input lag stutter instead.
Jeez.
But for Joel with the 980, it runs great. And I laughed so hard, Jeremiah. We were playing Rush on that first DLC that came out in 2013 when the game was still so broken. That was it, the China Rising DLC.
Oh, that's one of the worst nights of gaming I think I've ever had. Like the most frustrating. Just why am I here? What is this? It was that.
Yeah. We load in, and Joel's just like, man, this is like. Looks like a new game for me. He's like, I don't even remember these maps. Like, is this a new DLC? I'm like, Joel, this is the first DLC that came out. I was like, you helped me record some video the night that it came out. He's like, I don't even remember any of this. I gave him premium, Jeremiah.
I know. I was upset at it briefly. I was upset by that.
Yeah. But yeah, so here we are in 2015. Battlefield 4 is finished. Unless you have SLI or the stars align and you drop frames.
I don't know. I had SLI and I wasn't very impressed. Like, terrible efficiency. But anyway, Tristan says, hey guys, love the show, keep up the good work. We will. I've written in before asking about upgrades. Here's my system specs now. He has a 4690K overclocked to 4 gigahertz. That's not even an overclock, Tristan. Put your big boy pants on.
Hey, mine's at 4.1. Easy.
Dave, I've had a 46, was it 70K or 90K? Whichever one Mark has. Remember,
70, I think.
Booted at 5.2.
I know.
Into Windows, benchmarking at 5. Now, that, and, you know, Tristan has a Gigabyte Z97 motherboard. That's a good socket. That's a good chipset. He could probably do it. Don't do it unless you know what you're doing and have a great cooler. But
and if you can replace your CPU just in case in 2 years.
But if you're not at like 4.5 gigahertz and you have an aftermarket cooler, I'm sorry, you don't deserve that processor. Now, he has a GTX 760, the overclocked model. Ooh. A 600 watt thermal take power supply and a 1 terabyte hard drive. Dave.
Oh, look, a good power supply, finally. Yes.
Dave, trivia question. What is the best single upgrade he can make, disregarding gaming? Look at that spec list. What is the first thing he should buy?
An SSD.
Yes. All right. That's not his question. My question to you guys is, should I get a second 760 and SLI them? No. Or should I go with a single card solution and sell my current card? If I go single card, I was thinking about a 980 or a 970. Thanks for your time, Tristan. Tristan, again, as always, we're going to assume you play at 1080p because you didn't tell us otherwise. No 760 SLI.
Yeah, don't.
Because that card is worth like 140, 150 used most of the time.
I'm looking now.
Maybe 160 if it's like a really nice cooler.
Jeremiah, that was weirdly specific. The average is 140 to 150. Congratulations,
Dave. I know my hardware. That's why people write into this show. Is because
you spend all day googling weird cards on eBay.
They want people who are obsessive.
You weirdo.
So if you bought that, just don't.
Yeah, don't. I agree.
Don't get a 980. Get a 970.
Yep,
if you're not sure what you get a 970. If you want like a budget solution, I have a Zotac 970. It is a fantastic 970. I'd say for the price, it's very, very short. It's like an 8-inch card, and it's relatively quiet till you put two of them an eighth of an inch apart. Then it gets very hot and loud. And it's one of the cheapest you can get, and I've seen them used for like $250 pretty easily. If you want them brand new, they're like $305. Probably get some free games. Pretty good deal. Get that.
Yeah, I was gonna say I would almost call myself a Zotac fanboy, but that's like saying that I'm a Honda Civic fanboy. Like they're not very exciting, but they're a very dependable budget option. I've bought two Zotac cards, one used and one new in the last 2 years, and both were fantastic. Very impressed.
Zotac though is not like Honda. Honda would be like Asus. They're not the cheapest. They're reliable. They're good. No issues. Zotac would be like Hyundai. You're just nervous.
There it is.
You don't care that they've gotten better over the last decade. They've got a warranty that's like for the next 3 decades or something. But you're just a little nervous. Anyway.
That sums it up. Look at you with your car analogies.
I've got analogies for everything.
And they're all cars.
Connor wrote in. Last question. I'm a big fan of your podcast. I'm looking at getting a cheap laptop for internet browsing and word processing. A lot of the computers I've been looking at...
Well, this just got a lot less exciting.
You're going to want a 970. A lot of the computers I've been looking at are using rock chip processors from a company based out of China. Are these processors any good? Dave, Google. Should I stick to Intel or AMD? This is also the first laptop I am ever going to buy. Well, that's true. If you haven't bought one before, this is definitely the first one you will ever buy. After this, they will all be second, third, and so on. I'm working my way through all of your previous podcasts. I'm on episode 58, I think. So I'd appreciate if you would reply via email instead of through the next episode. Thanks so much. Sincerely, Connor. Yes, we will always email you a link to the video when you write in, because everyone else...
to this podcast, sucker.
Everyone else will be getting this podcast 1 week later than our Patreon supporters and you, the people who actually wrote in for that. So rock chip processors. I'll be honest, I've never heard of them.
I got a link for you, Jeremiah. Get ready for going right there in Teamspeak. So this has solid reviews. It's $170. I mean, that's
a Chromebook
bones.
though. Do we know what he said? Internet browsing and word processing. I mean, that's
a Chromebook.
That's a Chromebook.
It's $170 with free shipping. That's
yeah. Oh, I mean, have you like comparison shopped Chromebooks much? They're like for the money for just internet browsing and word processing. They're fantastic.
Nice.
And they feel pretty quality. My little sister got one that was like a Samsung Chromebook, I think. Yeah. And I mean, I'm not going to say it's MacBook Air build quality, but like it's at least half of a MacBook Air build quality, and it was like $200. I'm trying to find some information about Rockchip. Like, I don't know anything about Rockchip, but I'd be fine buying an Asus, like the one you linked me to, like an Asus computer. They use Rockchip. I'm fine with Rockchip.
Well, that's what I was going to say is it's hard to find from what I saw in my last 30 seconds of Googling any specific information on, those CPUs. Like, no one's really interested in reviewing Rockchip CPUs, it looks like. But the laptops that are using them have great reviews. So that might speak for itself. Yeah,
I'm guessing Rockchip is kind of like ARM processors where, like, you don't really buy those independently unless you are building phones or tablets or something. Like, you get them if you need them, but they are not processors that people really buy, I'm guessing. But yeah, like, I would be more concerned about what brand of laptop you're getting. If you're getting a Chromebook, we'll assume Chromebook. Dave, see if you can find any Windows-based computers.
That's the only one that, I mean, like literally the only one that popped up was a Chromebook.
Okay,
that's
so
all I'm seeing.
We're pretty confident there are no Windows computers running Rockchip, as far as we can tell.
Yeah, I don't see anything at all.
Then we'll assume you're getting a Chromebook. Just get like an Asus or a Samsung. You know, get one from a good company, and you probably have nothing to worry about.
Yeah.
There's no like inherent advantage to Intel and AMD for something that small and light. All the work is web-based. You need something fast enough to run the web browser and tab back and forth between stuff. Like, that's basically it.
Yep.
Dave, we did it.
We did?
Episode 1. It's over.
Wow, I should feel more accomplished.
Thank you, everyone, for writing in. You know, this will probably, like, it will adjust and get better or change as it goes along. You know, this is the first episode. We just answered a bunch of questions. Hip, hip, hooray. And thank you, everyone, for writing in. As always, if you have follow-up questions, send them in. Write into the show. Where can they write in?
They can write us at casualshenanigans@gmail.com. Also, check out our new home on the web at casualshenanigans.com.
And there's a link there where you can type in your question and submit it right there on the website.
But remember, boys and girls, never trust web forms for long emails.
Yeah, like quick questions are fantastic. If you need to write something longer, probably just write us an email from within your web browser, like from your normal email client. But thank you, everyone, for writing in. That was CSG Tech 101. I have no idea what intro and outro music I'm going to use. You can tell how much thought I've put into that. But this should be up for people who wrote in within a day, and then should be up for everyone else within a week. And even if you guys... go ahead.
I feel like, see, we had a Polish question today. It really ought to be some kind of Witcher-related outro music, but that's just me.
Well, if you can find some royalty-free Witcher-related outro music, I will happily use it. I will give you 24 hours from the time I say this to get that to me. Otherwise, it's going live. No, I will give you 12 hours because I don't want to wait that long. But yeah, thank you everyone for writing in. Even if you don't have a specific hardware question like that you need answered for you, if there's something you're curious about, go ahead and ask it and we'll do our best to answer it, even if you don't need help with your particular rig. But for now, thank you everyone for writing in who did. We look forward to getting the rest of your questions, and we'll talk to y'all later.
See you guys.
Stay casual.